My father once said, "Son, isn't the brain amazing? You can read all the books in the world and it still won't be full." Wow, imagine that, a never-ending hard drive. What is this amazing device, this organic, smart, advanced storage and filing system? The more you seem to read and learn, the more neural connections made within. It's like the more associations the brain can make with the content it stores, the better problem solver it can become. But how much of this then becomes intuition? Is it merely a case of absorbing lots of knowledge and being able to apply multiple disciplines by asking quality questions to solve a problem, or is there something more going on? How much does intuition play a role in building rapport, and how might you be able to access and use it? Join me on this journey as we talk to NeuroSuccess Coach, trainer and author Marilyn Devonish as she shares how to intuitively build rapport with your community tribe both on and offline. Hello, I'm Jatinder Palaha and welcome to another Digital Rapport Master Series. And today I've got an awesome guest here with me today, who I personally consider to be like the Bruce Lee of personal development. And the reason I say that is because as Bruce Lee went around, if you know his story, he learned from different martial arts and he managed to see what works, what doesn't work, and made it his own. And through the process, he connected what was working and what didn't work, and therefore had a philosophy of his own, which he put out there. And I feel that Marilyn is such a person who's learnt from so many different disciplines that she's connected the dots between many things and is able to, just like Bruce Lee, be like water, be fluid in her approach, how she deals with her customers and clients. And I thought it'd be such an awesome thing to do an interview with Marilyn. So Marilyn, thank you very much for taking your time out to do an interview.
I love that introduction. I think I have to borrow that, Jatinder.
Go for it.
Bruce Lee of personal development.
Go for it.
Seriously, I had somebody say to me once, he said something, he went, "You've got an answer for everything, haven't you? It's always so slick and so elegant." I went, "I'm a black belt ninja, don't mess with me." Yeah. So seriously, I play with that analogy, but I love that description. Thank you.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. So Marilyn, just let the viewers know, what do you do, what you're up to, just so they get to know a bit more about you as well.
Wow. Well, my personal development started in October 2000. I believe it or not, when I say it now, people laugh, but I was very quiet and very shy and lacking in confidence, had really low self-esteem. And so I just got into personal development as a way of improving my communication skills because I was studying to be a chartered accountant. And one of the reasons I was going to be an accountant is I believed that I wouldn't have to talk to anyone, that I could just hide behind papers and punch numbers. And of course, if you're a good accountant, you talk to your clients. And so I was just looking for something that would, because I used to talk to people looking like looking down on the floor, even my own family. And so I was doing a freelance project and somebody had suggested this thing called NLP. And she says for our coaches, trainers, salespeople, we train them all in NLP. I hadn't even really heard of it. Years before, I had purchased a tape, which I knew where it was. It was, you know, when you have those beds with the divan drawers underneath, I had thrown it in the drawer under my bed because I thought, what a load of nonsense. The guy is just talking. So it went over my head and I thought, okay, she said it's good for communication skills. So that's why I signed up. Took a couple of weeks out of my accountancy studies to go and do this NLP training. And I have to admit, when I got the joining instructions and it talked about NLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy, HUNA, I was well annoyed. In fact, I was angry. So I pick up the phone, I say, "This is not what I signed up for. Can I have a refund?" And they did a classic reframe. You might know the man, Paul Vernon.
Yes.
Paul Vernon, other people I spoke to in the office did a classic reframe. I phoned the office when I ordered the stuff. He was the one who picked up the phone. And so we ended up talking for several hours, right into 8:30 at night. And so phoned the office, said, "This isn't what I signed up for. I'm not interested in learning this stuff." And they said, "Well, come to the training. If you don't get value from the training, if you don't enjoy the training, you can have a refund." And so I only went along just to get my refund. I was just going to sit through I had a face like thunder, arms folded, tutting and rolling my eyes for the first 3 days. And Paul said that he was at the back and he says, "Oh, Marilyn," he said, "we could see." You know, I asked loads of questions, not because at first I wanted to know the answer. I was trying to be difficult. And I was trying to find ways to disprove what they were saying, because they're talking about connecting with people, rapport, energy, mind-body connection. No, I had a business studies degree and a postgraduate marketing diploma from the Chartered Institute of Marketing.
Right.
I'm not interested. So I was like this every second. And he said we were standing at the back and we'd just be laughing because we'd see your body language. We could tell when you were going to rise up and ask another question. And then partway through, I thought, you know what, if I do this for the 7 days, they can quite rightly say to me on day 7, you didn't participate. They talked about playing full out. Again, I'm rolling my eyes going, yeah, whatever. And I thought, okay, what I'm going to do for the last couple of days, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to do everything. I'm going to do exactly what they tell me to do, and I'm going to prove that this doesn't work. And so that's what I did. And by the end of the 7 days, I was completely transformed.
Right.
And so the reason what I do is under the banner of transformations is because my transformation was so profound and so mind-blowing. I gave up the accountancy and said, I'm going to be an NLP trainer and a coach and therapist instead. And that was it. That was in October 2000.
Right. And since then, you've gone ahead and done loads of other disciplines as well, right?
Absolutely. I love the core disciplines and I still use them to this day. And I realise that one size doesn't necessarily fit all. So for one person, NLP strategy might be great. For another person, they're looking at you like, what? For another person, timeline therapy, fabulous. Another, straight over their head. And I noticed also that some people wanted to, feel like they're doing something. So, things like EFT, tapping, you're involved in the game. And then I just started looking at other modalities as well, because NLP, strategy, words, great. But I think we're also energetic beings. And so that then transitioned right to the other end of the scale with things like the soul plan reading.
Right.
So, and, emo trance and DNA theta healing and all that sort of stuff. Because I thought, wow, we're multifaceted beings. And so just having 2 or 3 tools in my toolbox, I'm then trying to, when they say hit a square peg into a round hole, I felt I was starting to do that, trying to make what I had fit. And I thought, well, actually, rather than do that, why don't I expand my skill base so that I am in with more of a chance of being able to most effectively help whoever is sitting in front of me. So now I'm not trying to make my tools fit. I'm saying what's going to be most appropriate for this client, and then I'm drawing on whatever's most relevant.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I mean, we'll come back to some of the points you mentioned there a bit later on. So if with this whole concept of digital rapport, as we were speaking earlier on about figuring out what is rapport, how that works, and then using that to understand how that can be used in the digital space as well. So I think the main question I'm going to ask you is, what is rapport? What would you say is rapport? For
me, rapport is that, I remember years ago when I first did that training back in October 2000, they had this saying that people who are like each other like each other. First time I heard it, I was like, huh? Again, when I was in rolling eyes mode, I was like, yeah, whatever. And I thought, no, let me think about that. People who are like each other like each other. And I had that experience. Again, the person I'm talking about, lovely lady called Gina. We, technically speaking, we have nothing in common.
Right.
She's just turned 60, I'm 48. She's white middle class, I'm black, grew up on a council estate. She grew up listening to classical music. I grew up listening to calypso and reggae and soul. So there's nothing really there, technically, but we hit it off. And we have been best friends to this day. She was here last week. We spent her birthday together. And for me, that's that thing about rapport. There was something about us which was alike, which was similar, that meant regardless of our massive differences, we like each other. And so for me, rapport is that whole thing about finding that sense of connection, which then puts you on a wavelength where you are in sync with each other and you're in flow with each other.
How would you say that actually works then? How would you say that whole process of rapport works? It's like, do you think there's steps to it? Do you think there's a way to get into rapport with someone? How does that actually come about?
Now, there's definitely a process of rapport, and there are different types of rapport that you can get. So you can get physical rapport. And I remember I was traveling back from London one night and there were 2 guys chatting away, engrossing conversation. I'm weird like that, though I do talk to strangers. And I went, excuse me, I said, stop right there, do not move a muscle. So they went, and froze. I said, I don't need to have your head in it, but can I have a photograph of you?
Right.
And they went, why? And I said, I'm running a workshop for a local, I work as a management consultant as well. So I was in a local authority running a workshop that week on communication skills and presentation skills. And I'm going to be teaching rapport. And I said, you guys are a perfect example of natural rapport. And they were like pretty much same body position, feet crossed, hands in the same position. It was so it was picture perfect. And so there's physical rapport that you can get where what you call matching and mirroring.
Okay.
So, you would match and mirror, i.e. copy the way that someone is sitting. There's linguistic rapport, where you get rapport from the words that you use and even your voice tonality. And then you've also got that thing that I call energetic rapport, where you get drawn to people. You've got no idea why, but energetically there's something going on. And then there's just the kind of the good old fashioned, that instant thing where, sometimes people go, what star sign are you? Oh God, you really remind me of so-and-so, because there's this connection, this thing that is in sync, and you go, there's something going on here. But oftentimes when you're teaching rapport, you start with the matching and mirroring to get people in the same body position, and then you can go on to things like linguistic rapport. You can even get rapport with breathing, rapport with the blinking of the eye. So I don't have children, but there have been times when somebody has been foolish enough to leave me in charge of their children. And the children's antsy, they're all over the place. If you get them on your chest and you get into sync with their breathing, and then you relax your breathing, eventually the child will also relax their breathing. And I remember I played the game once with the blinking, because I wasn't kind of convinced about this one, and my sister's child was very small at that time. And I did the thing, we're over dinner, and I started doing this. I got eye contact first, and then I started going, and do it more, and then eventually, when I started going like this, and then he was like, and it was just hilarious to watch. But that's the extent that you can get rapport with someone, get something in sync, match and mirror, pace and lead, and then you're in flow. But go to any bar on a Friday night, not encouraging drinking, and watch people who are together and they're in flow, and you will notice that they are physically often in rapport. Or there's a rapport leader, you call it as well. Somebody will lift up their pint and they, like the Mexican wave, everyone else who's propped up on the bar in the same position, they lift up their pint as well. And you can even get rapport with people on the tube. There are times you get into sync with them, you do something like maybe the physical posture, and then to check if you're in rapport, do this. Look at your watch. They will look at their watch. Now, if you went up to them and said, what time is it? They had no idea, because they just got this urge to, do that. So there are loads of ways that you can actually get rapport with someone and get into kind of sync and communication with them. And in terms of what you're asking about, how would you use it? I think for me, where it really came into its own and I saw the power of it, I was doing some gang mediation work, and these were two gangs who were literally killing each other. I think the day before we started our project, one gang member made the mistake of crossing the other's territory and was murdered outside of our building. It was that serious. And my job was to bring them together and to mediate. And there was another project I was on where one of the gang members was killed on the estate, and some derogatory comments were made, which the gang members heard. So this started their version of World War III. And my job was to bring these warring factions together. And so I thought, okay, even the police are refusing to come. They said, you need protection. We'd, advise you get bulletproof vests and all. I was like, whoa. And it was just me going to be running this meeting. The council had asked me to come in based on, the management training I'd done. And I thought, okay, I've got 4 hours to get these warring groups together. And with the gang members, we had 6 weeks. First 2 weeks, they didn't know they were going to be put together. On the third week, we announced, if you want to do this project, which was setting up a community radio station, you're going to have to work with your gang, your rival gangs. That didn't go down well. But my whole strategy was about getting them all into rapport. So it started with me. I had to be calm, energetically calm, so I could be in rapport. There was a bit of huna and energy stuff that went in terms of the intention for that. And then I made sure that I got people into a thing where I got them listening to each other. So they had auditory rapport, where I got them to hear the words that were being spoken. So they had a sense of linguistic connection. And then as people relaxed, I started to notice that the whole room got into rapport. And by the end of that 4 hours, gang members, police, and the angry residents consultants, all together, eating and drinking, having lovely conversations. And I think the defining moment for me was there was an older lady, and there's a gang member, like he's like 6 foot something, and I said to them all, you can come to the meeting, got to take the hoodies off at least, because that's what frightens people. And she's got her food, because all the residents brought a dish of, you know, from their culture, and they're both eating, and she's looking up at him, she's saying, oh, you're such a lovely young man, and I knew your mother growing up. And I thought, this is crazy.
Wow.
4 hours ago, he hated her, she was frightened of him, and the police wouldn't walk through that thing. It was crazy, but it all centered around, let's get this room into rapport. And I started the ball rolling by explaining each side, so they could hear and get a sense of connection to what it was like from the other side, and all of that. And people were like, how did you? It was like a miracle. People couldn't believe it. The time at the consultancy I worked for, that was the one time they pulled me aside and said, are you sure about this? I don't think you should go. I was like, it'll be fine. Because my intention was, it'll be fine. I can get these people into rapport. I can get them to see each other, to hear each other, to feel each other. Because for me, that's what rapport is really about. And when that is done, my work is done. And that's exactly what happened with the community radio station. I was 2 years ago, a guy called Stanford Lafacade, it was his project. That project must have been, I don't know, 2005, 6. 2 years ago, they invited me to the party for that. The community radio station is still going.
Still going. Wow.
Still going. Seriously, it is wow stuff. But again, from the outside looking in, it seems like magic. How can you get gangs who are killing each other in a couple of weeks to work together and happily work together? You know, got them sitting down, collaborating, writing lyrics and writing adverts and talking about mixes. And, you know, a few weeks before, they were killing each other.
So how did you then, you said you basically got them to a point where they were listening to each other, like each other's side, or how did you actually then create that? Because surely you did something there to initiate that process.
Well, this might sound a bit weird. I don't know, you know, what your viewership is like, but that process started with me at home. I sat and I thought about what is my intention for that event. What is it I want to create? And therefore, my ultimate intention was collaboration, working together, coming together as a community, or in this case, you know, with the gangs, coming together to work on a project. And so it started with my thinking about what I wanted, and then from there I work it backwards. Okay, in order for me to get my outcome and to have collaboration, what do I need to do? And then I designed some exercises to get them to do, and some things that I wanted to do, which would then help to create that rapport. And even down to, you know, just simple things like, you know, take off the hoodie, relax your shoulders, you know, listen to what somebody's saying, don't even think about what your response will be. And one of the exercises I did, I mixed the groups up, so, you know, gang members, residents, police if they wanted to take part, and they did, and I just got flip charts, and everybody just had to just come up with some words about, you know, how they feel and what is it like living on the estate. And then when you can hear that the person you're afraid of or you hate actually feels the same way, but for a slightly different reason, and you hear their story and what it's all about, magic happens. But I know it's probably it sounds simple. When I was explaining it back in the office, like, how did you do that? And they're like, well, what did you? And I was explaining, like, no, what did you do? And I'm like, I'm telling you what I did.
Magic.
It's simple stuff. When you get people to hear each other, when you get and for me, a big part of rapport is looking to someone's eyes. So I knew getting them in the room together to see another human being, no longer a shadowy figure wearing a hoodie, or no longer, you know, somebody from an opposing gang who's got a different tattoo or whatever their motif was. It's like when you can look at another human being and you hear that they have a similar story to you, something changes. The dynamic changes, and you automatically, then there will be common ground. And my job was to unearth that common ground so that everybody's doing what you're doing now. They're nodding. And I'm saying, can you see the similarities here? And like, okay, now that you all want the same thing, because a part of it is what your values, what's going on here? What do you guys want? And when they said what they wanted, they said it in a different way. But I said, can you see that you all want the same thing? And that then was a connection between 2-3 disparate groups
Sure.
who all want the same thing. I'm like, great, now how can we use our energy and the resources to get that?
So it sounds like there were 2-3 different things going on, in the sense, one, it was your intention, what you wanted to get out of there, right? Two was why that situation or that group was created in the first place, is that to create the peace between them. And you said it was a project that you were working on.
Yeah.
So it's that side of it as well. So it sounds like there's two elements. There's like yourself and the other person, right? So what would you say in preparation is, like, one, you have to prepare yourself, and two, you're preparing the other person. And you're going about solving that problem. And it seems as if it's like you need to know what the issues and problems are, and then be able to put your intent behind it to help them solve that problem, right?
Absolutely.
That's what it seems like. So would you say that there's an element of knowing what your customer, your client, whoever you're dealing with, an understanding of what they need, right, is a key point in order to build rapport with them, would you say?
Absolutely. So for instance, if somebody invites, so that when I'm, let's say, going to do a talk at Earls Court or Olympia or NEC, whatever it is,
Yep.
you're going to have 2,000-3,000 people standing in front of you. You know the title of the talk, but you have no idea who those 3,000 people are, because you don't meet them
Yep.
until you actually appear and stand on stage.
Yeah.
And so for me, then I look at, okay, what's the title, or what's the show, if overarching, what are they likely to want? Why would somebody most likely come here? That's my starting point. So I remember I once did one about attracting Mr. Right and repelling Mr. Wrong.
Okay.
The title was something like that, and that was one of the first ones I did. I think the company was Durex actually, but they wanted to do more about the relationship side. Yeah. And I thought, okay, for somebody to turn up to that talk, what are they most likely wanting to hear?
Yeah.
And then that's my starting point, that's my premise.
Yep.
And if I'm running a corporate workshop, I don't know, presenting critical thinking, creative thinking, whatever it is, again, I'm going to start from that premise, but now I've got the luxury of asking. And you've been to some of my workshops, you will notice I always start with, why are you here? What would you like to get and take away from today?
Yep.
So now my audience is going to tell me.
Yes.
But in a big forum like that,
Yep.
where you haven't got the opportunity to ask those questions, I start with, what's the most likely thing they're going to get from this? And
Yep.
then I'm going to design my communication to do that.
Sure.
And then I will start, let's just say if it was something around presenting or public speaking, my guess is you're afraid of public speaking, you're nervous about public speaking, you don't like public speaking.
Yep.
So I will then, to create rapport, let's say if I'm in a real, live situation, I might say something like, so for how many people is public speaking one of your worst fears?
Yep.
And I don't even have to raise your hand. People, if it is, they will nod.
Yeah.
They will give you some indication. I say, oh my God, have you ever had that feeling of dread about having to stand up in front of an audience and risking being like a rabbit in the headlights, where you just like, you don't know what you're going to say,
Yeah.
and your tongue gets bigger and your throat constricts and your heart is racing. Anybody who's experienced that, you're going to get some kind of reaction from them.
Yep.
And you're going to see the physical reaction. Now you know you're onto a winner. And that's when I'll be saying, so what I want to share with you today, because that was my story, that's what I was like up until the age of 32, I've now got rapport with the people who have a similar issue
Sure.
to the one that I had, and then we're off and running.
Yeah. There's a strong emphasis on know your audience, know your target, know your person, your client, their needs, their problems, so that you can then cater what you do to help and support them. I just want to go back a little bit. It's like, if you got different scenarios, situations, you've got things like networking events where it's one-to-one kind of stuff, or you might have, like you mentioned, the group audience. Then you got another kind of element going on there, and then you got the online space as well, where you don't know who you're actually dealing with or who you're talking to. So if you go back to the one-on-one kind of element of it, if you were to break it down to say, right, I want to work with this person or build that rapport with them, what would you say are the steps that an individual can take in order to get them ready, get them into a space where they can actually create that rapport with the person? So that's the first question on that side of it. Then the second side of it, I think, is more to do with like you said, the group side of it, but you've mentioned bits on that. You ask the audience, you're getting a survey from them to find out how you can help and serve them, right? And then the third question is, well, that wasn't actually a question. I think I'll get to the question after the first point in regards to what would you say are the steps that an individual can take to build rapport?
For me, a big one is listening.
Okay.
Just, where are you at? What's important to you? What's going on in your life? So let's just say I'm at a networking event and I say, okay, so where you're at the moment, what's going on in your world? And just kind of chatting, and people say, oh God, I'm so overwhelmed. There's no time to do anything. My brain now starts thinking, photo reading, accelerated learning, read at 25,000 words a minute.
Sure.
So, then I'm listening for more. So, okay, so what would really help you? What is it you need? What are you looking for? What would help you to resolve that problem? And if they haven't stated it in those terms, sometimes, and of course it depends on the event and what's happening, but I'm always interested in that question along the lines of what is it that's keeping you awake at night? What is it that's playing on your mind? Because when you know that, then you can kind of think about, have I got something that will help this person, that will be of service? So listening for me is really key. One of the things I'm often doing as well, if I'm in kind of work mode, and actually you do it probably socially, you just don't even notice you're doing it, is in terms of rapport, I'm listening to the words that people use. What's their primary and secondary modality? Because if I know they're primarily visual, for me to then start talking in very analytical terms, they're gone.
That's right, yeah.
So I'm kind of listening to that as well in terms of, so when I come back and say something, can I say it in a way that's much more in alignment with how they can hear it, how they will pick it up, how they will receive it? And so I'm kind of doing that. For me also, there's an assessment of, if we're talking about a one-to-one almost networking, I know it might sound a bit weird, but I'm also thinking, is this a person I actually feel as though I would want to work with? Would they be a good fit for me? Would I be a good fit for them? So that's one of the things I'm often, because people often say, oh, I'd love to work with you, I'd love to do this, I'd love to do that. And there have been times I said, I'm not the person for you. But, and I just know, I said, no, I'd freak you out. And I will explain why I don't think that is the case. And it's got nothing to do with, for me, it's got nothing to do with style or personality or background or that, because sometimes I think it's good to work with someone who slightly rubs you up the wrong way, because they're going to bring things up that you may not otherwise. But there's something energetically, I go, this tribe, let me just use that word. I get a sense that not my tribe. And that's a point where I'd be moving on, or I'd be thinking about someone else who could help that person. But first and foremost, I'm listening. I'm getting a sense of their communication style and modality. I'm getting a sense of kind of, where they're at. In NLP terms, you call it their values. What's important to them? What's the thing that they're most looking for? And then once I've heard that, it's going to be easier to get into rapport by then coming up with something that's in alignment with their values and will help solve whatever the issue or problem is that they have.
That's fantastic, because like one of the things when I deal with clients, when we do web work, for example, when you come across a new company or someone, when they put their content together, for example, they always do it from a place of, we can do this for you, we're this, we're that. And that doesn't really, that your client, it doesn't resonate with them, because it's like, so what? I don't care if you could do this. What can you do for me? So for you sharing that, to say it's about finding out what they need and then adapting your message to help them, actually helps that process along. So that's really key on that side of it.
And I always say to people, do not, because you can say anything, and in this world people do. I say, do not say stuff that you cannot deliver. That's not your thing. Because I could say anything, and I know there are times where it doesn't happen so much now because I'm not being funny, but there are so many things that I can do. But let's just, for instance, because I'm a Prince 2 project manager, I'm a management consultant, do lots of stuff, and someone sent me an email the other week and it said, project management role, and I thought, let me just have a look, see what's happening in the field these days. And I immediately read the first couple of bullet points, like, not for me, I'm out. Bit like Dragon's Den, I'm out. I'm out. Because it talked about analysis, data analysis. I'm like, no, Andrew Austin Hancock, he's your guy. It's not me. But I could say the right things and I could vaguely sort of know how to do it. But Andrew would knock it up in a couple of hours. I'll be there for a couple of days. So it's not to say I cannot do it, but I'll be wasting your time. So I'm always saying, once you've heard what somebody is about, once you've heard what's important to them, only come up with the right words.
That's right, yeah.
If you believe you are the right person, and be okay with saying that's not me, not a good fit, not something. You know, somebody asked me, because I've worked for events companies where I'm, managing events for 5,000 people and all that kind of stuff, right through to little events and stuff abroad and all the rest of it. And they wanted me to do some event management work. I loved the movie, great movie, very much in alignment with The Secret and all that. It was to do with the heart. So I had some people in it that I love, Maya Angelou and all that sort of stuff. And I still said no to that piece of work because I said, I can do it. I know how to do it. I don't want to do it. It's not my thing anymore. So the reason he asked me, all happened was we were at Alternatives and they had done a screening of the movie and they just said, can a few people say words to camera? Now most people ran a mile, saw the camera, you know me, I'm always up for it. If I like something, I'm happy to share my experience. So all I did was a little segue to camera, was just chatting to them, and they said, we really like your energy, we really like your style, we love the question that you asked earlier on. There's something we want to talk to you about. That was all in like 5 minutes because there was that instant sense of connection based on what I'd said and just the vibe. And from that they then offered me the job, but I just said, thank you, I'm honoured to have been asked, I can do it, I just don't want to. It's not my thing. That's really cool because you're being authentic there. I mean, because there are loads of people who may just try to do it or go ahead with it just because of, they think they're going to make money out of it, for example, or whatnot. But when you're coming back and saying, I know I can help you, or I know I can't help you, but this is the person that can help you, that's such an authentic space. That's exactly what I did. Gave her Mandy's number. You know Mandy.
Yes.
And I went, this is your girl. That's happened loads of times. If I'm in a situation and somebody says something, I can hear it. I can get a sense of possible solution, ideas in a nanosecond, and then I'm going to tell you who I think can do that for you. If it's not me. Always, it's better to do that because seriously, that's where you get out of rapport. Because then you get angry, resentful, fed up, whatever, and that vibe comes across, and it can ruin a perfectly good relationship.
That's so true. That's amazing. Moving on to that next element where you're talking about when you're doing stuff with groups and you got that group rapport that you're trying to create, and you mentioned earlier about asking the questions. The asking the questions is, again, I suppose it relates to the same thing, isn't it? About how I can help you, or whether I am the right person for you, or what to do about it. Would you? Yeah,
and it's almost like it's almost like helping people to qualify themselves.
Yes.
In a big thing like that, where you've got 3,000 people, if what I'm going to say is not of value, go to somewhere else, move along, go to another show. If I've locked you in a workshop, then I'm saying, why are you here? What would you like to get from today? And I'm then going to qualify up front. I'm going to say, let's just say 20 people in the room, and 18 of them pretty much say the same thing and 2 come up with something completely different. I will either go, we are not talking about that here today, which is rare, or I will say, we're not directly addressing that. However, I will add some things into what we're doing today so that you get some ideas around it. So now what it allows me to do is be more agile and get into flow with why people are here and what I can do for them. So, even though I will have, let's say, what I know what I'm going to cover, there's always room for expansion and contraction. If 18 people say they want A, and I was planning to talk about C, I'm like, well, bye-bye, C. C now goes from 80% to 20%, and A expands. So it's that whole thing about, again, what's going to add. For me, my question is, what will add value? One of the questions I ask up front is, what would make this worthwhile and valuable use of your time? And tell me that. And it's interesting, there was one of the workshops I did every December. I run something called the Mind, Body, Spirit Energy Fest, and there was one particular year. It's December. They had not put the heating on in the room. So we get in there, it's like an ice box. And I'm like, oh my God. So I said, I cannot work in this room. So, and everything was set up because I set it up the night before. And I look at my watch and I'm like, well, delegates will be here in about 40 minutes. They then have to find another room where we're actually moving stuff. So by the time, delegates arrive while we're still lifting stuff out and putting it in. I don't like that situation. It's never happened to me before. And so we're due to start at 10:01, plug in the laptop, fire up PowerPoint, let's get started. About 15 minutes in, I thought, this ain't working. So I said to the group, okay, I said, I'm going to ask you to do something for me now. I'm going to ask you to stand up, go and stand in the corridor.
Yeah.
So all the delegates stand up, went and stood in the corridor, and me and Gina, I went, this ain't working.
Right.
I said, I haven't set the room up. I haven't set my energy. I haven't set the intention of having, because I'm asking why are you here, what do you want? And it was cold, and not physically cold. It was just, people weren't open, they weren't sharing, it was stilted, and I'm thinking, this isn't right. And I thought, what I normally do to ensure that I get rapport off the bat from people, I set up the room, set up the intention, do a bit of huna, none of that got done.
Right.
And I was like, whoa, this is weird. People are responding, but not in the way they normally do. Set them in the corridor, set the energy of the room, got myself centered, opened the door, let them back in like a couple of minutes later. And people who don't even feel energy, don't know anything about energy, were going, feels different in here. And then it was, whoom, all rolling, everybody sharing. And I'm like, that's
awesome. Yeah.
It was just like, that's crazy.
Right. Yeah, that's really cool, because I suppose by doing that, it deepens the rapport with the people as well, because not only are they getting what you promised them in the first place, you're adding more value to that, so they can go away and say, actually learn something new or different, or what I wanted, I actually did get. So that's really cool as well. So I suppose if you then move on to the next step, where you don't know your audience, you don't know what they look like, you're not even in a space to see them, to get that interaction, like the online world, what would you say is a good starting point, or what kind of things would you say can work in the online space for building rapport with your audience?
Now, this is where I'm going to have to be slightly unconventional again, because this is how when I'm doing my teleseminars, this is how I start. A couple of minutes before, I'm just sitting with my eyes closed, and I'm kind of going, okay, what do people want? Who have I got? What's going to be most useful? And I'm setting the intention that I will say and deliver what's going to be most useful to my audience, even though I don't know who they are. Because there are times, if I'm just doing an open teleseminar, I just put the link out there, people dial in, I can see the number count, I can see 47 people on the webinar and 20 people on the phone, I don't know who they are. So I'm setting my intention that the right people are in the space, and I'm going to deliver something that adds value to them. And of course, again, I'm going to say, right, with regards to whatever this teleseminar, online, whatever it is, what's the title? What am I talking about? Sure. What are they most likely to want from that? And even on the webinar, let's say that forum, people can type, so they can actually yes, no, respond. But I always start off with, okay, what's my intention for this session? And please allow me to deliver something that is going to be of value. Right. And then surprise, surprise, even when I've got no idea who's on there, people will message back and go, oh my God, I think you were talking just to me. That's one I hear a lot. I remember there's one woman, lovely, you know Renee from Yes Group. I remember once I did a teleseminar, she went, Marilyn, she said, I got up off my sofa and I looked behind the sofa to make sure you weren't there. Because she said, you described my situation exactly. And she's like, you were talking to me. I felt you in my room. And she actually went, I looked behind the sofa like, is Marilyn here? And do you know what I mean? But
would you say that in that situation, when you were doing that, are you in your mind, in your intention there, are you talking to a group of people or an individual?
I'm talking to the collective, and I'm also, I know it's a bit out there, but I'm also talking to the people who will listen to recording or watch a replay. Sure. Again, I have no idea who those people are. So I'm saying, okay, for everybody who this is relevant, let me come up with something that is going to fit the bill. Yeah. And I like questions. I love questions. So whenever I have the opportunity, whether it's a group of 3,000 or a group of people online that I don't know, if there's a forum for questions, I love questions. Yeah. Or, is this what you're looking for? This is what I'm planning. Is there anything else you would add so that I can adjust myself accordingly and kind of get in there and deliver something? And of course I teach accelerated learning, and so I like to get in as many of the modalities as I can, because when I can do something, even if I, let's say on an online webinar teleseminar, I'm not necessarily using visuals, but I will, in the way I use my language, I'm going to create a picture of something in someone's mind. I'm going to make sure that I use a variety of words so they fit into, if people are watching this and you've heard of NLP, you may have heard that there are people who are more visual in terms of what they see is important. There are people who are more auditory in terms of what they hear is important to them. You've got the people who are kinesthetic, so it's very much about the feeling, the gut feeling. And then you've got the analytical people who are the thing, it's got to be logic and order. So in terms of what I'm saying, to ensure that I can get rapport with those people, even though I've never met them, I can't see them, I don't know who I am, I'm guessing, in amongst all of that, if I can hit off all of those modalities, plus I love food, so there's often something gustatory and olfactory, and if I can hit off all of those modalities in the way that I'm presenting, I get rapport with pretty much all of the people on that, even though they are completely different. And I would use that both online and offline, which is why you can go into an organisation or a situation where you've got nothing in common with those people whatsoever, and they will still come out at the end and go, best workshop I've ever been to, best talk I've ever heard, you were amazing, best thing of the day, kept me engaged, wow. I remember I've had people who come to have been filming when I've been speaking, and they've gone, I normally zone out. When I'm just on autopilot. I said, I actually listened to what you said, and I actually enjoyed it, because my job now is I'm going to hit off all those modalities so that I get rapport. Can't say with everyone, it's not like everyone, but the majority, the vast majority will be spoken to in a way that it resonates with them, which then gets that sense of rapport, and we have that sense of connection, even though technically speaking we have nothing in common.
So that's really cool, because you're going really deep into the psyche of a person there, because you're coming from a point of understanding the different learning modalities and knowing that everybody's different, and you're using a methodology which is then almost circulating through the different modalities, so that you are capturing, like you said, the majority of the people. So in that sense, you are creating rapport with those individuals within what you do in that cycle, because you're connecting with them and you're talking to them in a way they can understand from their point of view, right? It's the key thing that is coming across on here is how you are asking the right questions to figure out what they need, what they want, and then being able to almost adapt yourself, be like water, right? That's why I said the Bruce Lee of, it's like, that's, in Bruce Jeet Kune Do is the martial art that Bruce Lee designed, right? And it's all about the way of the intercepting fist. It's all about adapting to the person's energy and things like that. So that's why I was relating that back to that. So you're basically like cycling through these things to hit the different modalities, to connect with people from their needs and desires, in order to give them what they need in that sense. So that knowing your target audience is a very key thing in a way. But you've also said that when you don't know your target audience, you're coming from a point of intention, like what you're putting out there. Would you say this is there's an element of going with the flow and see what happens, or is there a process of kind of learning in that as well, as to figuring out exactly what people need, or what product service I could create to cater for the industry?
I'm notorious for offering things, selling it, and then I create it afterwards. Because I've done it the other way. I wake up and I think I've got the best thing since sliced bread. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And I put it out there and it's like, nothing.
You're testing the market in a sense.
And so there are other times where I go out and I say, I'm thinking of doing this, I'm thinking of doing that, what would you like, la 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 la, and then people come back, oh my god, that sounds great. And then once I've got people engaged in that process, that's when I'm going to do the designing, where I've then found out, okay, well, why did you sign up, what exactly would you like to get? So at the moment I'm just testing out a new membership thing, and we're in beta test mode. It started on Sunday, and I'm now putting pieces out and saying, do you like this, do you like that, what are you looking for? Now the thing about it is, I think Henry Ford probably hit on this. He said if you ask people what they want, they often don't even know. Because he said if I went and asked my audience what you want, they would say I want faster horses. No, they wanted faster modes of transport, but they couldn't think beyond horses and horsepower. So he didn't actually go down the traditional route. He created this thing saying, okay, what are we with transportation? We want to get from A to B. If I ask you what you want, you're going to tell me you want faster horses, but I know you want to get more efficient travel. So he then leapfrogged that and thought, what can help people get from A to B in a faster, more efficient way? And so, yes, there's definitely value in asking people what they want, but sometimes you don't know what you don't know. I can say, running a Huna workshop, what would you like? Well, if you don't know what Huna is, You'll be like, well, feel better.
Yeah.
So there are times you've got to leapfrog that whole process and go meta and go out into the future and go, okay, this is the issue and the problem. What do I think would help to solve this?
Yes. Yep.
And then you almost like reverse engineer it.
That's it.
And then you go out and say, hey, I've created this. And then I'm always about adaptation. So you're asking about going with the flow. I'm always going with the flow. I always have an intention. I know what I'm going to do. I may have even designed slides, and if I'm doing corporate workshops, I've got handouts. And even within that format, I've got flexibility.
Yes.
I've got agility, because I'm not now just going to force feed you what I've created in isolation, just because that's what I said I'm going to do. I still need to know, is this going to add value?
That's it.
Is this going to be useful? Can you take something away from that? And I have to say, luckily, in the last 16 years, I've always been spot on in terms of what I have created. But I would have no qualms about throwing something out the window if I turn up. And there have been times, I remember one, they told me I'm speaking on this, and great. Actually, it was Gary.
Okay.
They were doing the Inspired Business Club. So he said one thing, and I'm like, great. And then I damaged my eye. So now I'm walking around the house, my eyes are bleeding. I'm wearing dark glasses, can't see, can't blink, blah, blah. Day before, I'm just back from hospital. He went, oh, here's the talk for tomorrow. And with my half a good eye, I looked at it and it was something completely different.
Okay.
I'm like, all right then, all right, it's fine. And then that, you have to be on the spot, and you have to, you know, and still got the same feedback. Oh my God, that was amazing. I'd never thought about it in that way. Because now I'm like, okay, let me go into my data banks. What do I know? Okay, I'm talking about this. What do I think is going to be most useful? You will have to adapt. So I'm happy to throw things out if I realise that is not what my audience requires. And let's do something else.
Now I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of people do come a space of, this is the product I've made, this is the product, you need to buy it, and try to stuff it down people's throat kind of thing. And that doesn't always work, because they haven't done this side of the work. They haven't looked at what their target audience needs, or how they can adapt to what they have to fit the criteria of what their needs are for their target audience. So that's some very, very insightful information.
Stuff. Did that work? How did that go down? You know, so often you'll notice I do lots of free teleseminars and lots of intros and all that kind of stuff, like the beta test at the moment. I've got a group of people in there. They're just in there complimentary. Because you're my testers.
That's right.
You are going to tell me what's going on. Or I launch something at a pre-launch price and a launch price. The trade-off for that is you're going to get it at a much lower price. However, I'm testing. I'm going to test. I'm going to see what works, and then I'm going to adapt it. So by the time we now hit launch, it's been beta tested. I've had feedback about that. People have gone that way. You know, a couple of days ago, I just tested out an exercise for my Ignite Your Brilliance program. I looked at it myself, thought, I think that's pretty damn good. But then I thought, let me just see if it works. Can somebody come in cold, take themselves through these 9 steps, and get the result of neutralising a problem? I can do it because I wrote it. I created it. So now let me send it out to you cold. So I sent that out to about 7 people. One, Farhan, I love him, he's just fantastic. He went, no, well, he went, I'm still processing. Do you know what I mean? But people went, done it, tested it, that works, clear. And now I know, tested it on 8 random people who've got nothing to do with the process. Now I'm confident, I can send that out, I know it's going to work. So I'm always playing with stuff and testing stuff. And in terms of the online, the Rapport, surprisingly, my intention is to make it really good for the people who have paid for the program. But often people will just do 1 or 2 exercises and go, that was good.
That was
How can I do more of that? And that wasn't my, you know, mind. My thing is like, I'm thinking about my group now. How can I make this amazing for them? But sometimes people engage in that and go, that was good. I had this shift from just 5 minutes of an exercise. I now want to know more. I want to find out more. But one of the reasons I do those free teleseminars is I'm testing ideas. What works, what doesn't? Are you in, are you out? If can you stay? And you know, everything that I put in a program has got to be qualified. You've got no business hogging up space on my program if you're not going to deliver value. And I will admit, in the early days, I kind of fell into the trap of sometimes delivering something that I wanted to deliver. So I could come off going, well, that was good, because I said what I wanted to say. but I'm not that I'm irrelevant, but it's like, but if I didn't say what the audience were wanting and hoping for, I might have said what I wanted to say, but I've missed the point. Because now I'm out of rapport. I'm just in rapport with myself.
Exactly, yeah.
I'm thinking I'm brilliant, but the audience are like, what was that about?
Yeah. So there's like levels of rapport, isn't it? It's like from the initial engagement to then what you follow up with and what you follow up with, what you follow up with. It just creates a deeper and deeper rapport as you go through all those steps.
And I think I like the word tribe. I started using it probably 10 or so years ago, because it's that sense that when you have got rapport with a group of people, they're almost your tribe.
Yeah.
And I think your tribe will come and go.
Exactly.
You know, you don't have to try and hold on to the same, but they will gravitate to you for a reason. In the most unusual of ways.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just for a little 5 minute. I went to something the other day, and she went, "I could feel you in the room."
Right.
And I did a TV interview for something called Oxford TV last week.
Yeah.
And I wore like a sparkly top. I mean, I like sparkles, but this one was like rainbow sparkles. And I said, "Oh yeah, I was wearing a suit, you know, traditional suit, but underneath I put this sparkly top." And she went, "Marilyn, even without the top, I would have felt your energy as soon as you walked in." Because there's that sometimes people who are your tribe, you resonate, and you just know they're my kind of people. This is my tribe. You know, people say my brother from another mother, and my sister from another mister, all that kind of stuff.
That's right.
What they're describing is that sense of rapport where you cannot put it into words, but there's something that connects you, and you want to be in that space. And for me, that's what real kind of good, deep rapport is all about.
So if we go into, let's touch into the energetic side of things as well. What your take is on that? On what do you think is happening on an energetic level with people as to when that rapport is getting created? Do you reckon it's like the subconscious stuff, which is layers of conditioning from the past, and subconsciously we know somehow, and therefore we're connecting on that level? Or what do you think is going on in that?
I think there are a couple of things, and I did as you know, I played with Facebook Live yesterday because I'm doing there's a lovely company called Learning Strategy, so I'm speaking. They're doing a global, what they call NLP Mind Fest next week. And the topic they came up with for me was how to win friends and influence people. And I say yes to everything. I'm like, I can do that, and then I figure it out. You know, I'll figure out how to do it. And that was one of the times I looked at the title Bert had sent, and I went, you know what? I don't think I want to do that. So I went back and went, Bert, that's a bit of a classic. I don't think I want to go there. He went, Marilyn, I've seen you online. You can do this. Because he said that's exactly what you do. And so I did my modern day take and version of that, and was very much talking about the online in that sense of connection through, you know, written word and print and spoken word. And for me, what I call it energy, and I call it emotion. And I do believe that you can transmit what you're feeling and what you're thinking, both in the words you've written, so let's say a Facebook post, a social media post, and in the words you speak. And there have been times where you could line up two posts which are pretty much identical. One of them I'm going to resonate with, one of them I won't. Why? Because one of them has a feeling about it, an emotion, an energy to it. And one of them is like, the words are right, but there's no substance, no soul to it. And so I think this whole thing about the energy and the emotion, I remember years ago I wrote a magazine article, and it was about my partner having an affair. Now I wrote it several years after the fact. I was not affected by that at all. It's no big deal. Great, stuff happens. But people were reading the article and coming, "Oh, Marilyn, I'm so sorry to hear that. Are you all right?" And I'm getting all this sympathy. Even the guy in the gym, I'm minding my own business, jogging around. I was at the Barbican at the time, what was then Holmes Place, and I could see him watching me as I went round. And I thought he either fancies me or I've got really bad technique, and he's going to talk me about my technique. And he said, "Did you write that magazine article about your partner having an affair?" And I went, "Oh yeah, I did." And he went, "Oh, I just want to say I'm so sorry for what happened to you." And I'm like. And I said, you know, I was just saying to people, "Oh, thank you so much." And I'm like, what's happening here? I'm not the lead. And I thought, I know what happened. For me to write that article, I sat and I put myself back into the state and into the emotion of what I went through then. And I wrote it from that space. So that got put onto the page, the flat page of a magazine. And then when people read it, they felt those emotions. But after I'd written it, I just stepped back out of that. In NLP terms, you call it anchoring. and I'm going on with my day.
Yeah.
But then people are reading it, because then it comes out several months later after you've written it, and they were feeling it and sympathetic, and oh my God, I had no idea what you went through, and yada yada, and I'm like, that's so weird. But it was my first inkling that the energy, the emotion gets transmitted through your words, whether you speak those words or whether you write those words.
Yeah. So as Bruce would say, emotional content.
But it is. People are affected by that. They're moved by that. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. That's another form of rapport. And there was one, I didn't even write one. There was one a journalist interviewed me for the Metro newspaper, and it's called Breaking Up the Easy Way. And we just did a session and she wrote about it. I got clients from that for 7 years after that article, and 80% of those clients were men.
Right.
I didn't even write it. She wrote it, but she was very good at conveying. And she started off quite insulting, saying when I first read Marilyn Devonish's Guff on NLP, it sounded like New Age hocus pocus. I thought, oh, this is going well. And then you get to the end, and she says, I don't know how it happened, I don't know what happened, but it was seamless with no effort on my part. Right. And people read those words and were getting in touch 7 years later. Because I often say, where did you get my details? Yeah. And they'll say, oh, there was a newspaper article about relationships, about breakups. And I'm like, that was 7 years ago.
7 years ago.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. That's the power of words.
Yeah.
And people then rip it out the paper or keep the paper, and I still got a copy of the article now, but it's like words have power, whether they're spoken, whether they're written. And I actually think sometimes you can think stuff. You have a friend, you walk into a room, you go, you're all right. They haven't said a word to you.
That's right.
You just know. You pick up the energy, you pick up or they'll say, yeah, I'm good, I'm fine. And the minute you say, my line of work, I go, you sure? Start crying. But on the face of it, everything is okay. But there's an energy, there's an emotion, and I think we are somewhat sometimes desensitized to that side of ourselves. But we live in a busy, crazy, frenetic world. But I think we all are equipped with that sensor that is beyond. I've seen it and I've spoken it and I've heard it. There's something else, I think, that, and from a neuroscience point of view, sometimes when people get deja vu, your brain can be just like a 1/10 of a second ahead of you. Yes. So you pick something up, but you don't consciously register it until do you know what I mean?
That's right.
And I think we have that sense. I'm sure when we were primal, we were out and about in the forest. You need to know that something's around the corner. And so I think we still have that ability to pick up those vibes, and it's just the question is, are we tuned into that? Are we paying attention to that?
So no, that's great. I think you can see a kind of a pattern emerging through that, in the sense of, like, it seems like the initial thing needs to be the intent, right? For me, I'm not, everybody's so different, but for me it starts with that. And then the second stage seems to be a sense of presence, getting present, and putting yourself in that space. And then after that, it seems as if it's about, asking the right questions as to what does this person need. So it's almost like you're detaching yourself from yourself, and now going the other way and thinking, what's the other person need? And then being able to solve the problem, basically, and connect with them at that level. So that's what seems to be coming out of your process.
Absolutely. And even when I think about stuff that's way out there, like, let's say the angel tarot card readings or something like that, or the energy work, where I say to someone, sometimes stuff just comes into my head, and the minute I second guess it and try and make it more sensible, it's mess now, it's wrong. But when I say what's coming to my head, the thought I've had, where I get myself, like you said, out of the way, it's spot on. It is absolutely spot on. But as soon as I start to try and make it logical and fit and say the right thing, it's game over. It is game over a lot of the time, because you can then overanalyze things and overthink things. And so for me, I guess the word I would use for that is intuition, in a way, where you get a sense that this is the way to go, not this. And that plays also a big part, because people say, why did you say that? I remember once I just said to a client, she sat where you're sitting, and I went, I don't know, I said, I can just hear the song Born to be Wild in my head. And she went, she lives miles away now, it took her probably 2 hours, she went, I listened to that song when I got into the car this morning, and she played it a couple of times and was singing it to herself. And she's like, and I said, I don't know. It just popped into my head, and it's not a song I've thought about. It's not one that's on my playlist. So sometimes it's random, and you're like, whoa! But it is when I get myself out the way. It's all, and I'm a, you know, of course I do archetypes and that sort of stuff. So I've been a fan of Jung since I did A-level psychology when I was 18, and he talked about this thing that he called the collective consciousness.
Right.
And I have been a believer in that. That there's the
Borg.
And actually, one of my friends, Sarah, who I, you know, when I was working as a consultant, she used to introduce me to it. She said, Marilyn, she's a Borg. She doesn't seem to sleep. She just needs a couple of minutes to regenerate, and she's always on it, you know, always like, ask her anything, boom, it's there. She's like, but it's that. I think, for me, I feel as though there's collective consciousness, and so you can pick up the vibe, you know, and if I'm messing about, you know, I call it the psychic superhighway, but whatever you want to call it, the matrix, whatever, I do believe that we are scratching the surface in terms of our connection as human beings.
Wow, we can end up going really deep there. So no, I think we've covered a lot there. I think there's good scope, especially with the online side of stuff, for how you mentioned about the intent and the emotion that you try to get across. I think that's very important when you don't know your target and you can't connect it. With the one-to-one level, it's a whole different ball game. So no, I appreciate that, Marilyn.
Just one other thing, just to say from that, I often say, I would say, write in the state that you want it to be received in. So I don't write stuff on social media if I'm annoyed or if I'm a bit angry. It's like, don't do that, because I might write happy words, but the vibe of that, the energy of that, and a friend of mine, her dad was a lawyer, used to do these high profile cases, and he says, don't say or write anything that you wouldn't be happy to see on the front of the newspaper tomorrow morning. And so she told me that back in the year 2000, and it's one that really stuck in my mind, and I thought, no. And I can write what I call a rant, but I'm not angry, I'm not, you know, incensed. I'm probably now at this point laughing. Or if I'm sharing, like, I've got my hashtag laughter break and hashtag dance break and hashtag synchronicity, yada, yada, yada. And so I write in the energy that I'm communicating from. So if I want to get rapport with people that want to have a laugh, I'm actually probably laughing when I write it, like, oh man, this is so funny, I love it. If I'm sharing a dance break, I've probably just finished doing the dance break. If I'm in that wow synchronicity state, then that's the state I'm in when I write. And if I'm doing a rant, I'm going to anchor myself into it so that I can, because sometimes, you know, when you are angry, let's say, it's like your mind washes over and you see red, and you might say or do things that later on you're like, oh geez. And so I always say, with that sense of communication, with that sense of rapport, be in the state that you want to transmit. And if you want to transmit happiness, get yourself happy. If you want to transmit wow, oh my god, be in the wow, oh my god state. And I always say that about being on stage. If I walked up and went, hi, my name is Marilyn Devonish, and I'm your motivational speaker for today, quite rightly, you'd want me off the stage. And so I say to people, hold it, and often with my clients, I give them a thing where I say, pick a word, your intention for the audience. What would you like the audience to take away? What would you like to impart to the audience? And now the premise is, you're not allowed to say the word. Don't have it on your pitch deck. If you're pitching, I work with entrepreneurs and startups, so you can't have it on your pitch deck. You cannot have it in your PowerPoint presentation. However, you must embody that. And clients get freaked out when people come to give them feedback. They will use that exact word. And the first couple of times, they're just like, because I said to them, I said, you'll probably find people will use that word when they give you feedback. And they're like, nah. And then it happens. And not only that, I remember one of my she's been petrified of public speaking, and she was invited to do a TED talk, so we did some coaching around that, did the same exercise, what's your intention, what's your golden thread, what's your word, and so people in the room gave her that feedback, and she was like, whoa. Then she was on Facebook saying, I've just done my TED talk, people started using the same word who weren't even there, and then she went onto Twitter, the word is everywhere. She's like, how did that happen? I said, because you embodied the word. And so I would definitely say to people, whether it's standing up and speaking, whether it's writing, teleseminars, whatever, embody the intention for your audience, because you will be it, and then that gets transmitted even if you don't say it in your words.
Amazing. So Marilyn, what happens when rapport doesn't work? What goes on in that situation?
I often think there's like a mismatch. So you can have one person here and one person here or here. And I remember I was working with a group of customer service staff, and they were talking about they often get irate callers and people who are really angry. And I said, well, one of the things you want to do, there's something called pacing and leading in rapport, where you start from where someone is, and then you pace and lead them to where it would be useful for them to be. Now, if somebody's on the phone and they're irate and they're shouting, I'm not suggesting that the customer service agent shouts at them and with them, but I say be more up in your energy. Because if they're up here raging and you're calm down, or, you know, there's no need, you're completely now rubbing them up the completely wrong way. So I'd say, if they're here and your natural state is here, I say bring yourself to here and do something more expressive, like say, oh my goodness, I can imagine how frustrating it must be for you. This is going to diffuse them now, because they're expecting a fight, and you're saying, oh my gosh, if I was in your situation, I would be frustrated as well. And they're like, well, yes. And your voice tone is a little bit higher than it would be normally. And then when you get them to go, well, yes, and say, so, okay, what can we do to resolve this? They come down another notch. Because like, oh, well, let me speak to the supervisor. Okay, let me just, do you know what I mean? But I say, don't come in. If you're here and they're here, there's a complete mismatch. And so coming closer to where they are, and then you're going to pace them, lead them down to where you want them to be. And also, a bit like when I was talking about, you know, setting up the room, the training room, and it just was off. It's like, it's not working. So I then had to do a reset and go, okay, where did we lose it? And if I'm running a meeting or doing a mediation session, I'm going to run through in my mind, where did we lose rapport? What went wrong? And I'm going to trace it back. Was something said? Was something done? Was something not said? And then I'm going to go back and see, okay, how can we address that? So, but it's that whole thing, I think for me, the pacing and leading is really key in terms of be as close as to where they are as you can be without you getting into that. And then you kind of, I think for me the word is empathy. Empathy, And years ago I became a Samaritan volunteer. You know, you're on the phone, you're answering the phone, and people are like, oh really, can you keep your mouth shut long enough to be a Samaritan? But you don't answer the phone going, hiya Samaritans, no, because people are down, they're depressed, they're feeling suicidal, and so you have a tone that, and it's more Samaritans, pause, can I help you? So you don't want to overwhelm, and then you stay where they are. So you're not, and I remember making the mistake when I was doing my Samaritans training of saying, oh, I understand how you must be feeling. The guy who was doing the role play went ballistic on me to the point where I nearly cried. And he was a sweet man, Alan his name was. The man was effing and blinding like there was no tomorrow. And I was like, I didn't even know Alan knew those words. But he was making a point. And he was basically saying, how can you understand? My son has just committed suicide. My wife has left me. I've got debt collector. And he went through this whole rampage. And I was in the other room, because what happens is you go into one room and you're just on the phone, so you simulate, and then you've got people in the other room, the panel, who are listening and evaluating. And I sat there and I just thought, whoa, that was harsh. Got it. I don't understand. I can empathize though. And I can hold the space. I can meet you where you are. And in that case, I'm going to let the client lead me, because I'm now just holding the space. So it depends. Are we in what I would call coaching mode, in which pace and lead? Or am I in, let's say, counselling mode, where I'm just going to hold the space? Because if I go in as my day-to-day self, rapport is blown. And so I get rapport on that end of the scale by being where they are. And then if I need a resolution to something, I need to pace and lead you to where we can then discuss an outcome and get to a resolution. And then oftentimes those angry calls, they finish off again, oh, I'm so sorry to have taken it out on you. I would probably do something similar. Do you know what I mean? So you get that sense of connection. But for me, the understand with that experience with the Samaritans, I'm like, whoa, totally get it now. But the empathy is like, I can hold the space. I can imagine what it must be like. And then I sometimes put myself into that space. If it was me, if I was on the receiving end of that treatment, how would I feel? And this, you know, with all the conflict we see going on in the world at the moment and all of the divide, I often say to people, just take a moment. If you grew up like that, if that was your mindset, if that was your programming, if that was your environment, if that was a rhetoric you were being fed, can you honestly tell me hand on heart that you wouldn't feel something similar?
Yeah.
Now then, remain in that space when you have the conversation. And often, sometimes I would say to people, if I'm completely out, they say something and it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
I just say, it's really interesting. I had never thought about it like that. Tell me, how do you come to that conclusion? And then they will explain, and then I'll go, oh, actually, yeah, I can see that now.
Yeah.
If I had done X, Y, Z, A, B, C, had that experience. Yeah. Okay.
Makes sense,
now we can agree to disagree, let's say. So I still might not totally agree and be in alignment, but I can see how you got there.
Yeah.
And again, now we can happily sit down with opposing views and break bread and have tea.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely, I mean, that does require the person to be aware and alert, and almost like we were said earlier about being out of themselves and being present to what the other person's, where they're coming from. So
it's that whole thing, walk a mile in another man's shoes.
Yeah.
I'm not being funny. It's basic. I actually think it's really basic stuff. And one of the things that I came up with when I was doing the gang work and the mediation work and all that kind of stuff, and even the consultancy, because sometimes people hate management consultants, you know. My premise when I'm doing all of that kind of work in bringing people together. Yeah. My whole thing was, my intention is, I they don't know it, it's unspoken, but it's what I'm holding. I see you, I hear you, I feel you. Because when you can see another person, when you can hear another person, when you can feel another person, you can, it's hard to maintain that broken rapport. You cannot help but, and there's an exercise we used to do, right, it's called agree, disagree. You'd have two people or a group of people, you've got to talk about a subject you agree on, but you've got to break physical rapport. Right. So you could be talking about, let's say, Star Trek. You know, you love Star Trek. But if I'm doing this, and eventually you'll be like, what the hell is she doing? Because now I'm not with you. Like you said before, you picked up on the word present. You're totally right. There's a sense of getting present. Then I say, I say, stay away from religion or politics for obvious reasons. It's a workshop. We don't want fighting. But I say, pick a subject you disagree on. Like, one might like hot holidays, one might like cold holidays. But maintain physical rapport. So when your client shifts, you gently shift and you use similar words. And people are laughing. I then go, you've obviously misunderstood the exercise. I said, I want you to disagree. Oh, we are, but... And then they're laughing, they're all over the place. And actually, either they'll go, well, it's fine, we don't care that we disagree. Or what will happen is they'll go, actually, do you know what? I think I'm going to try a cold holiday. Wow. I think I'm going to try a hot holiday. Simple stuff. Because often when rapport is broken, it's broken physically and it's broken in terms of the words. Right. So you then start bringing back the physic, and not in a big obvious way. Let's just say you went like from that to that. If I suddenly went, you know, did like a Frank Spencer, it'll be silly. But it's subtle. It's subtle. And just get on. It's almost like getting onto somebody's wavelength. So when rapport is broken, I say, look at the factors of rapport, the physical rapport, the words that are being used, even the rate of breathing. Because when somebody's getting het up, often the breathing gets het up as well. And I look at all of those factors, see which of those is broken, and then get it back, gently bring it back into alignment, and you will find that people can't even disagree with each other. They're laughing, they're joking, it's all good, and they even start seeing the other person's point of view, and they do not expect that to happen. And the exercise can be as short as 5 minutes a per. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, absolutely. And again, people are like, is it that easy? And I often say, I remember I had one guy that, I went back to Lambeth Council. I was there in 2009, and I'd run that first workshop in 2004. So I'm washing my hands in the bathroom, and I hear it a lot. Somebody went, it's you, isn't it? And I went, it depends what I've done. If it's something good, it's me. If it's not, it's my twin sister. I don't have a twin sister. And she laughed, and she went, you did a workshop here about communication skills and presentation skills. And I said, oh yes, I've designed and delivered several of those. She went, you shared something with us about rapport, and I made them, you know, there's this thing being a line like Chinese whispers, and I talked about the power of words, the visual, kinesthetic, auditory, etc. And she said, and I went home and I used that exercise with my husband. She says, our relationship relationship has improved dramatically just by doing that, because they were talking at cross purposes. He was, you don't ever see what I mean, you never listen to me. Same thing, but one was communicating here and the other was there. She said, I took that exercise, I gave him a list of words for each of the modalities, the visual, kinesthetic, auditory, and what you call AD, the thinking. And she says, I started to listen more to my husband, use similar words to him. And I say to people, you know, when people talk, hear the words that they use that fit into those categories, put them into your basket, and every once in a while take them and sprinkle them back out into the conversation. Works wonders. And she said, I did that, I went home and I did that. She said the whole relationship changed, and she said it's been great ever since. She said, I just wanted to thank you and never thought I'd see you again. And I'm like, she remembers that from nearly 6 years before. Wow. It was a simple, you know, little explanation. I call it the IKEA effect. So I ran them through that, and it made enough of an impact that she went home and used it outside, because it was there as work. You know, I'm there to run, you know, design and deliver work trainings. But I always say, you know, find ways to apply this to your daily life, because it will make a massive difference. Yeah,
that leads nicely to the next question, is about, you know, who can use Rapport. It's something that pretty much everyone in every industry can use it, right?
Absolutely, and we do it naturally. When there are people you get on with, you naturally probably same body posture, you laugh at the same things, you use similar words, you have expressions that you use all the time. So it's natural, it's there. And I often say where it really comes into its own is like what you were saying, when it's broken, when it's not there, this is where it's a game changer. But when you're in your natural sort of, you know, with friends, all the rest of it, in a scenario that you're comfortable in, rapport is naturally there. And in the times where it's not there and you want to be able to get a connection, that's where you can bring it in and enhance it. But definitely, I would say everyone. And I don't like those blanket statements, everyone, but pretty much it's part of who we are as human beings. And I think there are definitely ways that you can enhance it in all of the scenarios that you were talking about.
I remember, it just reminds me of how Suki mentioned, he said about how once a conversation, actually it was actually probably on his interview, and he said everything in the universe is trying to be in rapport with each other. So I thought, ooh, that's quite interesting. So now, Marilyn, thank you very much. I mean, if people want to get in touch with you, what do they need to do?
Social media is /Marilyn Devonish, MARILYN, and then it's Devon with an ISH, so DEVONISH. My website is www.transformationstm.com, and that's trance as in hypnotic trance, TRANCE, formations, F for Freddy, ORMATIONS, and then TM as in trademark. So transformationstm.com. Email is marilyn@transformationstm.com, but Twitter, Facebook, on Instagram, I am the NeuroSuccess Coach, because for me, bringing neuroscience and success, and like a bit like yourself, I want to put some science behind personal development. Just saying, do this, be your physiology. It's like, it's fine. Some people just do it, but I'm like, if you really want to know why you're doing that and the physiological and neurological impact, you know, let's put some neuroscience behind it. So on, you know, Instagram, I'm the NeuroSuccess Coach. But I'm there, I'm out and about.
So watch out for Marilyn. All right, Marilyn, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
I loved it. That was brilliant.
Cool. Thank you.